So AI is all over the news as of recent. Seems like every week there's something new coming out. Recently, some of you may have heard about the lawsuit from the New York Times against ChatGPT. There's varying opinions with which direction that will go, but the point more so is that there are, risks with this technology, just like with any other. So something to be aware of and keep in mind as you start leveraging this, diving into it. There are things like security questions, copyright infringement issues, of course. So uh, next slide, Kimon. Yep. So it's in the news. There's lots of things already happening in the world already, actually for several decades with AI. The difference now is that it's more accessible to us through language models. So as humans, our most normalized medium of expression is language. So for us to be able to communicate with the intelligence, we've needed that language layer, and that's what ChatGPT has brought to us, and other language models, of course. So how does this actually work? So language models, there's a whole series of YouTube videos actually that are really great at explaining this, but how does AI itself work, whether it's language models or data extraction or data filling or image recognition? How does that actually work? So I asked AI itself to teach me, like I'm 5, what it is. And so I'm paraphrasing here, but imagine you have a small toy robot. You can ask this robot questions and it can answer them really in whatever way that you need to understand it best if you ask it as such. But how does it know how to do this? Well, it learns from examples. So just like we learn by studying examples and by being taught by others, AI is simply learning from things that we teach it. So if we teach it that this image is a cat and another image is a cat, it starts to learn what cats look like. And then when you show it a dog, it says, well, I'm not sure what that is, but it's not a cat, right? That's your opportunity to teach it then what a dog is. And then that kind of, that's the same theory. You just extrapolate that into more and more complex applications. So I think the gist is AI is not a magic wand. It's something that you have to train and teach. And it can do lots of different things, and we can teach it to do many different things, especially now through language models. So we've looked at conceptually how AI works from just a learning basis. So we want to next dive into what is the latest in AI for the built industry, but we have one more quick thing to share just to set the stage. So that's AI. Now let's talk a little bit about our industry and the nature of our industry, which is relatively complex to some of those that we saw in the previous diagram where they're already using AI. So our industry is a little bit fragmented because we all have different priorities. We don't have similar time scales and interest of the life cycle of a building. We enter and exit at different parts of that life cycle. We have different requirements around comfort and preferences and security. So a lot of this has led to a lot of specialization, which leads to fragmentation, which then leads to no concentrations in buying power for research and development. We don't have large mega companies like the technology companies that have lots of R&D money because of this fragmentation. So this results in bubbles of innovation, and that's great, and it can lead to competitive advantage. But holistically, it's brought us to a place where we're kind of a weakened part of what would have been a sum of the whole, instead of parts leading to something greater than the whole, right? So we'll talk a little bit about this more, but one thing we want to point out is that we think coming together and using this new era of excitement as an opportunity to come together and work on this technology in a combined manner. So a lot of this presentation is us trying to expose ways that maybe we can do that and tools that you can use with colleagues and other stakeholders to come together.
That's a great point.
And just maybe to double down on this a little bit, the writing is a little bit on the wall. This McKinsey study that a lot of you are probably familiar with puts construction almost in last place, only above agriculture, in terms of digitization and its speed of innovation. The next slide's a little more zoomed in. Yep, that's good. So what's also interesting is that construction, a lot of our clients live in that government, healthcare, and hospitality sector, which are also at the bottom, interestingly above us. But I think the point is that we struggle to innovate quickly, and there are reasons for that. But we think AI is an opportunity to help exponentiate our progress here and make something different and do things different this time. Just to note, by the way, this is an early trajectory of where we're doing, how we're doing on AI and adopting AI. And again, we're kind of here at the bottom. So there's of course a balance here to strike. The industry is complex, but there are real opportunities, I think, with us being at the bottom, really, in terms of innovation. So to recap, we've covered what AI is, where it's going. I think that it is truly here today and how our industry is positioned traditionally in terms of innovation. But let's talk now about how there are actually some companies leaning into this, trying to make a difference, trying to create solutions and paving the way for our industry so that we do have true potential to do things differently.
Thanks, Jay. I guess I'll pick it up here to talk about a few things that we see going on in the industry now. And I think as many of us are probably aware of other examples of the application of AI. One that we're particularly interested in, is close to us at home here, is a recent effort by the International Code Council to use an AI bot to query the International Building Code and return responses and help people navigate through there and find the right code language to satisfy particular situations. So that's really an interesting example of a more conventional bit of technology coming together with AI, and certainly others in the way that technology is applied to models and applied to data stores that are out there. We're also really interested in the potential in design to help to improve design. One example of this is work that a Norwegian company that I've been familiar with for many years has underway regarding doing generative design with AI and bringing together domain knowledge and mathematics and computer coding to create designs for MEP in buildings that would not get designed to the level of detail and precision typically that they could be with AI. And the goal is to help address how that optimizes a design that's been, the building design created by the architect, but detailed out by the MEP engineer. An example of how this could work across a number of aspects of the domain is helping to design above the ceiling plenum, for example, and make that more detailed, and also then reducing the requirements for materials and improving performance if you can get away from 90-degree corners in ductwork and figure that out. And a lot of that is iterative. So there's interesting examples of how AI is being used to augment design. And here's an example of a plant room that where the room size can be reduced and the amount of carbon embodied in the materials used can be reduced and the waste significantly and measurably. So those are just some examples of things that are going on now. We're also seeing a lot of, and I only highlight this one as representative of other things as well. We're also seeing a lot of activity and interest in government. NIBS works a lot with our government agencies, and certainly at the high level, agencies have announced their applications of AI. It was recently a topic at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and the Department of State. We work a lot with them. They have a policy on AI overall, not so much in the facilities area yet, but we're sure that's coming. And the Corps of Engineers has an initiative going in AI that we're tracking with, and we're working with the federal agencies to understand the opportunities here and help assist in that area. And then that is a way for us to look at how do we advance the building sciences and bring them together, because government has a range of problems to solve, and it's important to really look at things holistically, and processing power can really help us to do that.
Thanks, Roger and Jay. And I'm going to kind of build up off of the McKinsey report that has construction. And I think that includes architecture, engineering, construction, and operation. It's not just construction. And we've seen other reports like this too. And this has been happening long before AI. This has been going on for decades. So one paper that I posted, a blog posting I made at BIMstorm last week, was about the hallucination aspect of AI, the risk. We all have heard about the hallucinations with AI. But I would argue that we've been having hallucinations in the building industry as well too, and hallucinations can be caused by lack of good information. This is long before AI. If we don't have good information, engineering, architecture, owner's information, then we start making the wrong decisions, right? So the more access we have to good information, then we can make good decisions. It gets really complex, and even accessing that information gets very difficult. And this is where open standards and access to systems comes into play. Again, long before AI. The difference now is that AI that has access to good information will make less hallucinations. In other words, if we train and guide it, just like Jay said, towards here's our information and we're going to ask you questions about this, just like the International Code Council says, here are our codes, now you can chat with our codes, not just go out and ChatGPT and ask questions on the open ChatGPT about codes, but about ICC. So we want to move from hallucinations to informed decisions for the whole AEC industry and move this productivity and maturity level up. That is the opportunity to solve all the challenges that Roger mentioned. As an architect, I've been exploring technologies and building technologies for many years, but got really interested in AI. I knew it was coming because we've seen it used in other industries before the chat GPTs and Midjourneys that came out. So as soon as we started seeing Midjourney and chat GPT and DALL-E come out, we said, okay, can we use this? How would we use it as an architect? As an architect, if I put my architect's hat on, as a prompt architect, how can I ask the right questions? We had a session for the AIA Japan called BIMstorm AI AIA. It was an interactive event, and you see some of the probably thousands of images and output that we put as part of this workshop charrette, and I'll walk you through that. We're constantly experimenting. Before even AI came around, we've built solutions with projects like this with NIBS for program to BIM, which is program requirements into BIM, taking data and saying what is required for healthcare spaces, for residential, for offices, for education, and making a database out of that that links to BIM and generates BIM output and says, here's what you need for an exam room. Here's all the content, the size, the air changes, all that stuff. All the information that typically is hard to get or is in an analog format or in our heads, and putting it in a format that is useful for technologies to use. So having this for many years, this has been going on for 15 years or more for us, we said, can we take this automation that we already have and feed it into AI? What would happen? And here's what we started testing. We said, okay, we're going to give you our data, our requirement data, tons of data, just tables and tables, or a link directly to the database. And here are the requirements for a clinic. Here's the spaces, here's the content, here's the size, here's the air changes, the floor finish, blah, 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 all the way, tons of data, right? And feed it the requirements for a site and say, can you program a clinic for a population of 1,600 people based on the previous parameters that we gave you? And it output a table that we then took into our tool and automatically generated a first version of a blocking and stacking model in BIM into Revit onto the site in literally seconds. Something that would used to take days, if not weeks or months in some cases. And then we started layering in engineering rules on top of that. We said, okay, for this clinic, what kind of microgrid options do we have to power this clinic? Because we know what's inside. This is before any design has even started, really. These are the programmatic massing models to generate the output. And the most important thing, and this goes throughout this whole presentation, none of this is only a push button AI solution. It's a partnership. Just like you would hire a specialist, a consultant, an engineer, you would have a conversation as an architect and engineer to come to a solution. You would bring other specialists in. You'd look at the owner's voice. AI is just another one of those tools. And as an architect, I have felt if we don't understand what the opportunities and risks are of using these tools, it's going to go in the wrong direction. But it definitely can automate the mundane part of the process to give us more time to have fun and design. So here's some of the outputs from that chat that we had with AI. It said, here are the spaces that you need. And these spaces are not static. Like I mentioned, they're tied to a database. So if the rules change in Japan, this is the type of space you need for residential. In the US, here's another space, but it's driven into the model and creates a masking model with very detailed content in it that still needs design. We still need to block and stack. And there are tools like we showed earlier that are starting to automate even this process, like TestFit, of configuring the design. In our case, we kind of did a hybrid approach. We did humans and AI. What can we do with this? And we started configuring different types of requirements for spaces for residential apartment units, landing in Japan using GIS tied to BIM, tied to program to BIM, the tools that I mentioned that we created earlier, tied to the AI discussion that we had, that narrative discussion. And within minutes, we started having different variations of these models. Once we decide on a variation of that we want to go forward with the design, we start generating AI-generated images. 12-story unit in Tokyo on the bay with apartment, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, mixed use on the lower floor, with all these configuration requirements, block and stack it, show us what it looks like before you spend more time going into design and engineering of this. Once a decision was made, and this was happening during this workshop, we then started running through configurations, rapid configuration, just with the image generation tools just off the shelf. We started testing, and they're not perfect. They do some crazy things sometimes, hallucinations, quote unquote, right? But we as an architect can react to it and say, yes, we're going in the right direction. Now we need a human to come in and start having this discussion and refining this. The difference here is that in the background, we had all the data that was generating cost and quantities and size of space and mixture of units and energy costs and all that before the design started, basically with the configurations that we had. And we then can put it in front of owners. So this was literally, these images are generated in seconds, if not, and there was hundreds and thousands of them that we went through, just iterating, rapid iterations, having the discussion. Once a decision was made on the configuration of the building, we took those requirement data models that were automatically generated as blocking models with detailed content, handed it to CDV Collectus, who have tools to add additional attributes, requirements of this many air changes. What do we need for that many air changes, this temperature range in this unit in Tokyo, in this latitude and GIS location? Here are the systems that we need. Systems that we need with additional attributes that are coming from other tools, Collectus in this case. So here are the attributes that you need for these systems, not only to design and construct, but to operate it. The operators want these attributes because the BIM execution plan says this is what we need. So when we're putting these models together, it's a system to system connection and the AI that's been looking on top of it to then help us make decisions heading towards a digital twin. Because as we start connecting these systems, including building automation systems and sensors, these buildings start to become intelligent. Before they're constructed, we're simulating it, and then we're heading towards construction to go into operations. And we actually, in the BIM Storm AI, we actually simulated that as well too. We have another tool called BIM Genie, which is a CMS application. There's other great CMS applications as well. Our goal with our app is we want it as simple to use as you're calling an Uber. If you can call an Uber in a complex city model, why can't we find our building and our asset and interact with that? As an occupant, I want to be able to interact with that building in real time and know nothing about BIM or AI or digital twins. I just want to say there's something in this room and it's hot or it's cold or the equipment's not working. And then it triggers a response from the facility team to that. So tying these systems together all of a sudden allows you to have these communications with AI and humans and occupants and systems and BIM all linked together to each other. It's all possible through the technologies that are already out there. We expanded this into ports. We need a port in Tokyo. Trent Systems and IGO Solutions came in with their knowledge about port design, and we entered it into the system. So it's no longer clinics now. Now it's a port design for a command center at the port and automating that process. And they also had business process models, the rules of how ports are designed and operated. When COVID hits and a container can't come in, how does that impact delivery of material, and how do we account for that delivery delay? So these simulation models that predict the future are part of the digital twin ecosystem that can start interacting with the physical models and the digital versions of that. And when you layer in AI, it starts seeing patterns that humans cannot. It would be impossible to run through all the scenarios at the pace that these tools can do now. Now you link all these things together and all of a sudden you have an ecosystem, a system of systems that can talk to each other and automate a lot of that process. So in Tokyo on the BIMstorm AI, we ran through hundreds of configurations, if not thousands, both detailed data and imagery and actual full-blown BIMs like you saw with the Collectus Tower earlier. And it was done in many cases at a fraction of the time. And the goal is not to do things faster, it's to do them more efficiently, more accurately, and take that McKinsey curve way up. We need to move the industry up, and this is our opportunity to take the complexity that Roger introduced and that we have in the industry with climate and everything else and solve these complex problems. So digital twins are systems connected to each other. So BIM and vertical BIM models and spaces in the model and assets in the model, data sets connected to it, the horizontals, the infrastructure, the utilities, the freeways, the shipping lanes, many locations with portfolios, many natural systems. Digital twins include natural systems, the people in the building that are constantly moving, the customers, the students, the trees and the landscape and the environment are systems that start communicating. And if you imagine all this, the stakeholders that want information at their fingertips in their language, not with the complexity of all of it, but I need to make a decision about design, construction, operations, climate, whatever it might be. And then you layer AI on top of this. It's a partner that helps us stitch these things together. And these systems can start talking to each other and looking at the business process models and giving it at the tip on our mobile devices, which we've already come to expect to give us this functionality for calling an Uber. So we need to be able to call our digital twins up. So now going from BIMstorm to an actual project. This is for the California community colleges. This has been going on for over a decade. They have 5,000 buildings in the Fusion facility asset inventory, space inventory and asset inventory for some colleges. And this is throughout the state of California. It's massive. It's 90 million square feet. All of it's connected to GIS and BIM. Our systems are part of it, but it's talking to their systems. And it's linked to the facility management application I mentioned earlier. So now we zoom into 12 million square feet for the Los Angeles Community College District, a subset of the California system. And they implemented our CMMS system with BIM, with digital twins, linked to their GIS and BIM, their space inventory, their condition assessments, their asset inventory of 10,000 pieces of equipment, and rapid ramp up after we started it up. Simplicity was key, but in the background, there's a lot of complex data that's constantly being updated through work orders, preventive maintenance, and condition of equipment, and all kinds of information coming in. Digital twins, system of systems, linked to people, linked to interfaces, linked to AI. We said, what can we do with AI with this data? So we started experimenting. We built a chatbot on top of the data. And we said, what facility insights can you give us? As a facility manager, what can you tell us about the work orders and preventive? We had a whole conversation about the data in English, in plain English. And it started giving us back charts. We said, create a chart of the, analyze the space types, analyze the assets in the space, analyze the type of space, analyze the types of work orders that are coming in relating to the space, relating to the building, relating to the portfolio. So you're zooming into individual space and going all the way out to hundreds of buildings and being able to see patterns and even analyze the sentiment of the occupants that are using the space. Are our customers happy? Where are the issues? What patterns do we see? Patterns that would be impossible to see just with humans interaction. You can, but it would take hundreds and hundreds of hours, if not years, or never. We actually saw patterns that we weren't expecting to see. We started getting output from this that gave us insight from the data that was just coming back from the systems and people and interaction, including the sentiment, where, like I mentioned earlier, and looking at different systems and asking about procedures. So you're having a conversation with the data and you're building dashboards on the fly in seconds. Literally, you're saying, I don't like it horizontal, make it vertical. I don't like orange, make it purple, whatever. It starts spitting out the data through the chat GPT. In this case, it's a chat GPT that's connected to our data. And that's the difference. We're pointing it to data that we know that we're asking questions of. And that's the trend here. It's as these systems become more intelligent, you're actually having a conversation with your data to reduce hallucinations. And it still hallucinates. You still have to watch it. It's a conversation with a system using AI as a partner. This is still the very beginning, and it's just amazing what it can do. And Jay's going to show you some really amazing things next. But we also experimented with the data that's coming from preventive maintenance and work orders and said, take what's in the preventive maintenance, that millions of data points, and said, just harvest that and give us information about the charts like I showed earlier. Or I said, harvest that and create a training manual for what the facility team needs to do for preventive maintenance of carts at the college. It actually took the procedures and created training manuals and slides and images. We said, let's create some images. Some of these images are kind of strange, but they're pretty close. And you can see the opportunity of what if you start combining graphics with data, with information, presented in a way that's useful to that particular user. It's very tailored to that particular person's viewpoint. And these digital twins and AI combined with architects, engineers, constructors, builders, and operators coming together to create something useful to get rid of that flat curve that we showed earlier. And that flat curve's been there for decades. So this is a chance. I think this is really something that is very exciting, but we need to understand more about it and what it can do. And the way you do that is you start just getting into it, because some of these tools are free. There's a lot of really low cost tools. We need to understand what this can do, what it can't do, and what the risks are, and what the risks are of not engaging it. This is the time to do it. So Jay,
Yeah,
you're
thanks,
on.
Kimon. I think we're a little ahead of schedule, so just want to let everyone know we might have some time for some questions here at the end. I'm going to share next. So Kimon shared about, I think, maybe a little more of the portfolio level. So just excuse me here for a minute as I get set up here, but I'm going to dive a little more into the, I guess, on the ground facilities management. That's where I'm sort of interested in sharing. So what's this interaction really look like when you talk with an AI, right? So this table here, to make sure you can hear me. This table here. So this is one way of showing some more training. This could be used in an FM scenario. This could be used for teaching really any stakeholder at any level of their involvement in a project. So this here, as part of our support on the NIBS support to the OBO BIM program, we have this placemat. And this is, if you think back to what Kimon was talking a little bit about when it comes to business process management, this here is kind of like a boiled down version of that. So if you even just have something as simple as stages of a project, some of the main roles on that project, and a couple bullet points about what their responsibilities are, you can take this and hand it to an AI, and it's able to actually digest this and create material from it. So we did this as a test. This isn't a final product, but we wanted to see what's possible here with a product we do have. And we plugged this into, there's a application here called Synthesia, I think is how you say it. It's one of many like video generators, but this one in particular can actually ingest just a basic PDF and analyze it and then spit something out. So this was 7 minutes of work. And I think it gets us to about 85%. There's some tweaking to do. And of course, you want to build in some more nuance. But I mean, 85% for an introduction video on the construction process for an agency in 7 minutes is pretty impressive. So I'm going to share the video. I'll share maybe like the first 30 seconds, last 30 seconds, so you can get a sample of what this is like.
Welcome on board. As part of this ambitious project, you play a crucial part and your role is interlinked with that of different stakeholders. Let's delve into how this works. During project startup, our OBO core project team creates the statement of work and touches base with BIM managers. If you're a part of this, you'll be initiating conversations, providing BIM packages, and establishing norms. OBO BIM managers. You have a role from start to finish. The project can't take off without your expert review of the SOW and kick-off deliberations, and it can't end without your approval and archival of BIM deliverables. Simultaneously, our diligent AEC consultants and OBO facilities guys enter the scene. AECs are responsible for model development and the FAC team for ensuring the necessary packages are provided to the AEC team.
So it goes through a little more of the outline, but this is kind of like an intro to the BIM process, right, at the agency would be the idea. And you could tailor this to specific stakeholders. You could just take the sliver out and say, I want a video for the responsibilities of the BIM managers during the construction process. And you could kind of like narrow this down really to any portion of the process that you wanted.
Last but not least, gearing up towards project completion. The OBO core project team is back in action, documenting the lessons learned and integrating BIM data into portfolio analysis. For our OBO facilities and AEC consultants, this means importing final COBie into GMMS, activating post-project components, and offering support in capturing lessons learned, helping to close out on a successful project.
Okay, so you can tell, of course, there's a little bit of awkwardness, but these models are being improved weekly. They're taking more and more data, improving the imagery, improving the videos. I mean, this particular use of this tool, this wasn't possible in September, I think, when we presented at Building Innovation Conference. So you can just tell how quickly this is changing. So I'm going to go into a couple live demos now of what this would feel like from a facility manager assistant perspective. Kimon showed some of the results out of that, but I want to show the experience of that. So first, and these slides will be available, by the way, at the end. Here's a list of just some sample questions that you could ask your facilities manager assistant if you were to set one up. And this is an assistant that you would allow access to your maintenance system information, anything from energy information, any sort of data that you have. The more you give access to, the more that this assistant could help you. So here's just some examples, and I'm going to focus on this space utilization question here and show you what this would look like. So what we have is a facilities manager assistant simulator that we've set up. And essentially, I built this saying, act as a simulator as if you were a facilities manager. So the data is not real, but it's a tool for you to explore what the experience would be like if you did plug in your agency data or organization data like Kimon mentioned. So I'm going to pull that up. So this is ChatGPT. Here's the actual simulator. There's some sample questions here if you would like to ask, tell me who you are and what you can do. You could ask it that, and it'll give you an explanation of what it is, and it'll give you some sample ideas, etc. So here it's saying it could look through drawing PDFs, it can use room numbers and layouts. It's also giving you the caveat that this is a simulation, which is important, but it's very realistic, I think, to what would actually be the case. So I'll put this question in here, and I'm just going to ask it, how has the usage of room 305 changed over the last 5 years based on the drawings that it has? So these are based on record drawings. And through plugins and access, like this bot actually would be able to read PDFs. You can see on the side here, I have an AI PDF reader of my own kind of bookmarked in ChatGPT. So here it's telling you what the occupancy was and the configuration of the space over the years, how it's changed. In 2002, it was occasionally used as a brainstorming area. Now it's a multi-purpose area, and it talks about like how that happened and why, right? So this is one experience, is going into the chatbot on your web browser and asking questions. So this is something anyone in the organization could do if it's set up. So the next version then would be on your phone. So this is an app on your phone, and I'm going to pull that up actually to show you. And you can do the same thing. I have a prompt down here. You could type it into your phone, but on your phone, you actually have the opportunity to like speak to it instead of actually like typing in, right? So I'm going to stop sharing so you can see me. Okay. So I'm going to just ask it a quick question. You can see it here. I'm going to say, I'm brand new to the team and I don't know where the backflow preventer valve is for the East Wing's domestic cold water system. Can you tell me where it is and the history based on the drawings of how it's changed over the years of projects going on in that area? And here it's going to respond back.
Absolutely. Welcome to the team. Let's get you oriented with the backflow preventer valve for the East Wing's domestic cold water system. Based on the building drawings from the original construction in 1985, the backflow preventer was initially located in the East Wing's basement near the main utility.
Okay, so that's just a sample of, I think, what's possible. I'll bring our presentation back up here, but feel free to enter questions that you'd like to ask it in the chat. We could put those in ourselves on the side, but actually we're going to give you direct access through QR code here at the end to that simulator that you can just try it out yourself. So I imagine one day having a assistant like this in every FM's pocket, that walking around the building, you could ask where something's located, what tools do I need, where is the nearest electrical panel? I'm in room 305, where's the closest one, right? So these are all applications of this technology over time.
And Jay, if I can add something real quick.
Yep.
I'd like to point out that I actually use this quite a bit, and it's amazing what you can already do with it. I have full-on conversations for an hour while I'm taking a walk in the morning sometimes, kind of prepping for what I'm going to be doing in the day. And you actually guide it. It's like literally having a conversation for an hour. While it's doing that, it's capturing it in notes as well too. So when I get back to my desk, I have an outline of my conversation, which I then can filter through and delete the hallucinations and pick out pieces that might help what I'm doing throughout the day. So it's incredibly useful, and it's already available through the AI chat on the phone, like Jay showed.
Yeah, so then you can take that idea. It could be the assistant in your pocket, or it could be an actual, you could take that and apply an avatar to it, is where things are almost to. So essentially, I took a question about FM work orders and presented it to an assistant, and then plugged that into a video generator to show that you wouldn't need someone actually in the background to have an avatar type experience in the same sense.
Certainly. Let's review the work orders and check for any relevant warranties and potential proactive maintenance tasks. Based on our building data. Work Order 1. Air conditioning unit malfunction in room 302. Warranty status. The AC unit in room 302 was installed in 2018. The manufacturer's warranty covers parts and labor for 7 years, so it is still under warranty. Proactive task. Inspect and clean the air filters, as they were last serviced 6 months ago. Regular cleaning can prevent future malfunctions. I'll skip to work order number 5 now for the sake of this demonstration of my excellent skills as a facility manager assistant. Work order 5, malfunctioning projector in lecture hall 1. Warranty status. The projector was installed in 2019. It has a 3-year warranty, which has unfortunately immediate work orders, but also leverages the opportunity to prevent potential.
So that's one example of, imagine this being on your phone, you're interacting with someone, the assistant's able to bring up floor plans and show those to you if needed. So there's a lot of, because it has access to those PDFs, right? And even models in the future. So then that final example of this would be something similar, but this would be just a very basic, hey, I have this work order to replace a fan belt today. Can you help me with that? And this is meant to show the feedback loop. So having an assistant is one thing, but having an assistant that can actually update data based on your experience and your colleagues' experience in the building is kind of the next phase of training
John.
it as you go.
You need to replace the belt on fan 11S, located in the penthouse in the South Wing Block 4. That's the same space you serviced the VFD on fan 7S on Tuesday. The belt is noted in the system as a 32-inch, Type Y. However, last week, Stanley replaced the belt on a fan of the same model and noted that the Type Y wasn't correct. He used Type X, a 30-inch belt, instead. I suggest you take both types. Once you're done, let me know the outcome so we can update the system. It should take about 40 minutes in total. Oh, and by the way, you're scheduled to replace the same belt for fan 3S next week. It's nearby, so you might want to consider replacing it today to save time next week.
Okay. So that's where we think things are going. That's actually where they are today. Those are all things we just built as tests based on things I think that would happen in a real life scenario. So there is certainly a lot that can be done. And this slide, we'd like to just start transitioning to how we think this is an opportunity for us to come together. This is a very exciting time, I think, in the world, but also in our industry. There's new technology leverage, and this is a time maybe more than ever, given the looming threat of climate change and financial challenges that our industry has faced. There may not be a better time for us to come together, right? If this doesn't bring us together to innovate, what will? So what we can do next, bring our resources together, start to talk about this, create forums, have conversations, and think creatively on how we can start to apply this. We do think that NIBS might be able to provide that place to discuss things together and be a resource center. We'll share some more about that, and we're still in the works of figuring that out. But we do see our role as being a part of that as well.
Thanks, Jay. That's great to hear those examples of how AI can be applied to information that is available out there today that we're using. And thinking about ways how we can figure out how to use it more efficiently and more effectively, and to, I guess, we always have trouble, you mentioned it earlier, fragmentation in our industry, silos that are in place, how we can break those things down, and how we can, I think, really integrate all the building sciences together in that process. Because we talked about asset management or port management. We have to deal with a lot of challenges there that we pointed out earlier around climate, around safety, security, performance, certainly. So the way that we can use AI to crunch numbers and pull things together is what I think is really exciting about it. One of the areas that we're certainly also seeing a lot of interest and activity in is around digital twins. We've certainly all worked a lot on BIM and building the foundation for a digitized environment that we can perform analysis on. And we can add in the idea of a digital twin with active information about the operations of facilities that we can then use to improve their operations and their performance. So we've been working on a statement on digital twins and BIM and how they work together and how we use open standards to accomplish that. I think the question about standards and AI is a really interesting one. We looked at a lot of information and processing it. The better and more organized it is, I think the better it's going to behave, and we'll be able to understand it as humans. I think that understanding that standards give is really important. But there are things that AI can do with information that isn't standardized that I think we need to continue to explore. So around the digitization of assets, that's one area where that's going to continue to happen. And we're going to be publishing a paper by this group here shortly. We also talked again about standards and the idea of a national program to have a set of next generation standards that are the basis for digital transformation. We've seen this happening around the world. The UK example is certainly one a lot of us are familiar with, and we're trying to do some similar things here in the US through our national BIM program and through our national BIM standard to allow us to, I think, with technology and standards, we can have convergence, we can have collaboration, and we can have integration, and AI can help us to do that across larger and more complex data sets and more efficiently is what we believe. But again, this is all mostly theoretical at this point. I mean, we're showing some working examples, but we're really figuring out how to work with it. A lot of the questions in the chat I can see have to do with risk and data and how do you protect it and what do you point it at. And you mentioned that New York Times challenge to the to Chat GPT. It's around that. What's the information that drives these? And certainly there's a lot of security questions. We want to continue to explore those things, and we expect to do that here through upcoming events at NIBS. And Kimon mentioned he's already had a AI BIM Storm AI, and I think he and you intend to continue doing those kinds of things, right, Kimon? And we certainly want to keep this effort around AI and AI and building sciences going here at NIBS. So we definitely want to encourage people to stay connected to our events and let us know what you're interested in, and we will continue to create a forum, a dialogue for this. Jay mentioned NIBS is kind of a unique, I think, organization to do this because of the cross-disciplinary, multidisciplinary, barrier-breaking opportunities and risks and challenges of AI. So we promised some QR codes. There's one there to get involved in our group around AI for the built environment. If you want to sign up, we'll continue to communicate with you. We're planning to do several things over the course of the year. we have a chat connection there, and also a QR for the FM assistant that Jay shared with us. So Jay, Kimon, anything you guys want to add here in closing out?
Yeah, the
This,
chat with the
yeah.
presentation, I'm sorry. The chat with the presentations is from our previous presentation at Building Innovations, and this presentation will be added to it, and then also some of the papers that we've been publishing. So it's basically a chat box specifically geared to what has been presented, including today's.
Yep, that's what I was going to mention as well.
Right. We have a lot of questions coming in, so we'll be sharing the responses to those.
Yeah, a lot of questions. Sorry, we didn't have time to actually do a
Tara
Q&A
will be
today and get
we'll be
through
starting
everything.
shortly.
But we're all trying to figure this out, and we will respond to questions, and we will also use the questions to guide us in where we go with future webinars in this series. We've already got ideas for a few things to build on what we presented today, and to address, the things that are in the Q&A are definitely known to us, the risks and the opportunities, and how we can address those things. So we'll keep working on that and bring you into the conversation. That's what we also really want to do.
And in a few minutes, the ALN session, which I put a link in, is starting, which we will have a discussion about what was shown today as well from an asset leadership perspective.
And I'm going to drop in the chat as well if you didn't get a chance to use the QR codes. I'll put the actual links to all three of those here for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We will follow up next week with recording information, session slides, and answers to the questions. So thank you so much,
You can
Kimon,
stop
Roger,
sharing.
and Jay. This was a fantastic session.
Okay, well, that was quite awesome. I'm just gonna, before we get into that, just want to start us off here at ALN Thursday at 3. I'm Nick Kanoki, Director of Technology for the Asset Leadership Network, and I am very excited for this follow-up discussion about today's National Institute of Building Sciences and Artificial Intelligence webinar that we just finished. Today on the program, we'll have a number of speakers, but we were sure Cyril would be here, so we put him up there, and his work was involved and mentioned a number of times by Kimon in the last presentation, but we'll hear more from him in just a moment. For now, just want to thank our patron members, Jacobs, Definitive Logic, ABS Quality Evaluations, CGI, and especially Onuma. And all our organizational members. Their continued support is what makes programming like this possible. And if you're out there wondering if you'd like to work with the ALN, please reach out. We are excellent at figuring out how we can work for our mutual benefit. And with that, we'll say next week, on Wednesday, not our usual Thursday program, but a time set for our Australian colleagues, asset management and sustainability goals in the water industry. And this is a continuation of the value and benefits webinar series. Mike, do you want to say anything more about that?
Yes, the folks that are depicted here include Amanda from South Australia Water and people from an Aboriginal community in Cape York, which is experiencing a cyclone that is just disabling their ability to participate. So someone from Loudon Water, Jessica Darza, will be participating instead, but we are starting to address how asset management impacts the UN sustainability goals. There's 17. And so part of our ongoing series are going to include that. So, okay, so you can stop that and let's just have a collective, wow, we just saw a presentation that is like a before that presentation and after that presentation. Nick, thank you so much for coordinating that and representing the ALN in our chat. And so we're welcoming a number of people from the NIBS AI panel, and Ryan Gear is joining us also. Ryan has worked with Kimon. I met Ryan during the first BIM storm in 2007. And so before we get to the AI community, Ryan, will you share what you were texting me during this incredible presentation?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Hello, everybody. That was truly an event, and I called it an event horizon. I think, like Mike said, this is going to be everything that happened before this and everything after. If I understand correctly, there was quite a few people that were on the background. I'm sure they're going to take this away. They're going to be clamoring for the recording and sharing it. I already can think of several different clients I could share this with, all different industries, because what they're going to take away is that ability to be able to see what we couldn't see before. And that's what Kimon's done all these years. He's basically has BIM synesthesia. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but that's the ability to see things in the numbers or in the music that we can't see. And I think we're just all should be very appreciative for the work he's brought forward, and very humbly too. So I thank him for that.
Yeah.
It'll be neat to see where this goes.
I should say Ryan Gear is an architect with a deep technology background, and he has been working with Kimon on many initiatives. And so when I've known Kimon since 2001. So when I say this is the best presentation he's ever done, believe me, I've seen a lot of Kimon presentations. And it's not just Kimon. It's a team sport. The NIBS AI group is obviously been doing some powerful work. Jay clearly stepped up and is a big shoulder for Kimon to lean on. I saw the slides beforehand. They had more than 60 slides. I was like, Kimon, there's no way you can get through. They got through them all, and it was comprehensible, and there was time. It just like on all counts, it was really incredible. But instead of just gushing, Zara, will you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what they were saying at the very beginning about bringing together? You've been in the AI committee and at NIBS and might be able to give us some insight on the thoughts there.
Yeah, sure. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend the presentation. I had a meeting, I had a conflict.
Yeah, of course,
And,
of course.
and now I'm hearing all these things, so I can't wait to watch the recording. But yeah, I'm Zara Gorbani. I'm the BIM manager here at Penn State. I'm also doing research on digital twins, and I've been involved with NIBS since 2020. I'm a vice chair of the Digital Twin Integration Subcommittee, and I've been working with Kimon on that. And yeah, I'm also an officer of the BIM Council now.
Excellent. Do you have any thoughts at all about how this can bring the AECO community together?
I think AI is a common can be used as a common language that everyone can access. I think it brings a huge opportunity for our industry.
Okay, so thank you. And any other comments you want to make about the future of AI or what you're doing at Penn State with AI in the building industry?
Yeah, so right now my work is on digital twins. So I'm building some foundational knowledge to set the stage for implementing digital twins in AECO. So how we define digital twins, and I worked on a use case ontology for digital twins. And right now I'm working on an implementation plan on the steps that an organization should take to make and maintain a digital twin. So AI will be a part of that. And before, I also worked with AI with neural network for like object detection when I was doing my master's. So I have like some hands-on experience with that too.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mr. Borhani, you appeared just in time. I was just gonna mention you. Would you like to speak?
Sure. I was
Ali Reza, first introduce yourself, please.
sure. Can you hear me good?
Yes, we can hear you.
Very good.
And we can't see you. Your camera is off.
Yeah, I've
Is
been
that,
trying to make it work.
it was on for a second, so it worked.
Okay, let me see then.
If,
Is it working now?
yes, it is.
Perfect. Well, first, thanks for having me today. My name is Ali Borhani. I am currently transitioning from my role as a systems integrator at McDonald Miller Facility Solutions. I'm a team lead in the digital twin integration subcommittee of the NIBS, working with Kimon and Zora. I see also Mark Goldman here. So yeah, I'm part of that team, and I hold a PhD in built environment, working on emerging technologies for the last 8 years.
Excellent. So were you able to watch the presentation?
Yes, I really enjoyed the presentation.
What
Very
was it
interesting topics.
What stood out to you?
I would say the most interesting part was just seeing some use cases of how we can leverage AI and ML in the current industry. We all understand that there are challenges, but to see the upcoming opportunities was interesting. Also talking about the importance, having Kimon talking about the importance of open standards and the importance of data. That was something that I can really, engage with that discussion. And I think that's really important. And it's a prerequisite for using not just AI and ML, but any emerging technologies in the current industry.
Yes,
So hopefully we can talk about it a bit more in the discussion today.
Yes. So you mentioned Mark Goldman, Mr. Goldman from Esri. If you would like to make any comments about the presentation and about the initiatives of the AI committee, what's the official name of that?
So, Mike, it's Ryan here. I just was noticing in the chat that his microphone's not working.
Oh, thank you.
So maybe he can answer that in text.
Well, I can briefly answer that question.
Thank you very much, Ali.
Digital Twin Integration Subcommittee, DTIS. That's what we call it.
Okay. So Cyril Verley is CEO of CDV Systems, and he has an excellent harvesting BIM approach. And he has worked for the past year with Kimon to meld together the process of getting the asset information out of thick, hard to manage building information models, and then making it available for Kimon to be able to then connect to AI and do those wonderful things that are going on. So the presentation was incredible. What did you think of it, Cyril?
No, I thought what was shocking to me were the videos that were generated from this data as a way of explaining. I was shocked by the graphic repairs for that that golf cart, that blew me away. The part that really caught my ear was when he was describing it towards the end of the presentation. They were describing floor plans and how it can absorb floor plans. My thought is, if you can take a variety of PDFs or CAD files or Revit files combined together into this database, indoor wayfinding would be amazing. Literally, you can ask your phone, I need to find room 503 in building D. How do I get there? And if it could draw you a map from your handheld device using just a variety of CAD or BIM applications.
And where is the belt on that fan?
Well, that too,
yeah.
For managing the asset, of course. But yeah, I think, it's quite remarkable to see the video describing what Stanley did 2
That's
weeks ago.
important to test
Peter
it out
does.
right now, even with the
Sure.
open tools, because it increases our understanding of what's.
Okay, so Kimon is just, we all understand how amazing he is. So he is now in an after meeting discussion with executives of the federal government so that the National Institute of Building Sciences can talk about how to use the power that was just revealed to us. And he accidentally turned on his microphone for us. Now, when he has a quiet moment with that presentation, he will speak to us if he's got a chance. Anyway, he's just incredible. So so the visualization, the ability to create a manual to show how to fix the golf cart, not even a building related issue.
Right.
So I've got a whole lot to say, but I would like Radu to join us. Radu participated in our tree storm last fall, and so he's familiar. How did you like that presentation?
I think it was amazing. I'll introduce myself quickly. I come from the landscape architecture community. I'm also part of the digital integration committee with Ali, Zara, Kimon, Mark, and others. And I think in terms of some of the questions and challenges and sort of the interesting positive questions in the presentation, a couple of things stood out for me. And it's one thing I feel about AI, the fact that it's an incredible integrator, right? In an extremely eclectic and complex system of systems, essentially, a concept that Kimon explained, and it's been sort of brewing in our digital twin integration committee conversations. The fact that technology overall, and in particular, I think AECO technology is extremely eclectic and extremely sparse, right? And I think AI offers an incredible opportunity to integrate these, and it's something we've seen, right? The fact that the videos that Cyril was talking about, how they basically integrate data in a digestible manner, right? And execute communication with it, and that's just mind-blowing. Another point that Kimon touched on, and we're hoping to sort of throw it in this community to discuss the natural systems and the I think unique opportunity offered by AI to sort of digest and process the complexities of natural systems, right? Which include, there's erosion, there's growth, there's entropy, there's all sorts of complex information systems that integrate through AI, I think, uniquely. And
that's one way to bring together, which is, I was really happy to hear the emphasis at the beginning of the presentation of how the building industry is uniquely fragmented and therefore slows down our innovation, and that NIBS has taken a leadership position with this flag in the ground technology of artificial intelligence. But as the committee acknowledges, it's connected to digital twins, assisted with digital twins. And we like to say governed with asset management, because you got these really powerful tools, but you really need to anchor them to mission, stakeholder interests, measurable values, continual improvement. And that's what the asset management element allows. So breaking down the barriers inside the building community, but also to the natural environment. So we can see that we live on one world, and that how everyone acts in the one world is going to impact others. And was the great thing about Kimon emphasizing the hundreds, if not thousands of iterations. We can take the information on all these complex issues and put it into AI to create multiple movies of the future, and then pick the movie that we want to see. But not blindly. We can explore the options, see what potential unintended consequences we can unveil ahead of time. Now, we can go through a million iterations, and then there will be 1,000,001 unintended consequences. But let's go through 1,000,000 to eliminate as many as possible unintended consequences. Cyril, it sounded like you wanted to talk about natural assets, or?
No, I was going to mention, Radu, when you mentioned natural assets, my first reaction was water. How do we manage water in a better way that not only is touching the building, but surrounding the building, weather patterns, how that impacts through the digital twin. I mean, for me, that's water is the key.
And just drinking water. And that's what our event with the Australians next week are going to be focused on, is water. Australians and Loudoun County, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. So, yeah, the ALN is very happy to participate, play in the sandbox with Kimon and with NIBS and with the American Institute of Architects, American Society of Civil Engineers, as many associations as we possibly can to try to bring these benefits to fruition. So, Ali, what were some of the upcoming activities of NIBS that are possible for people to get involved with? Ali, or anybody on the committee, anybody that can share?
Yeah, probably Zara could answer the question better than me, but currently we are in the process of reviewing the paper. I'm not sure if it's gonna be sharing the paper with the public before publication, but of course, after publication, we are looking for receiving feedback and reviews, because we consider this as a continuous effort. So it's not just we publish a paper and be done with it. We want to build a momentum and use it as an opportunity for actually make a change to the industry with the opportunities that we see in digital twins and AI and ML and all the emerging technologies that we hear about nowadays. So of course, I can foresee some opportunities for engaging with NIBS to continue the discussion and provide feedback regarding the paper that the different stakeholders in the industry could read and see how it applies to their specific domain and how they can use it for their organization. There are other parallel efforts that Mark is kind of leading, some liaising efforts to get engaged with other organizations. So NIBS wants to work collaboratively with other organizations on the ALN, an example. You mentioned other organizations like AIA as well. So, or US Army Corps of Engineers or other organizations that we want to learn about their works and their efforts regarding digital twins and see what are the opportunities to collaborate and what are the synergies that we can get from all these efforts that we see in the current industry.
So, Zara, is there anything you can add?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know how much you know about our subcommittee, but we have worked on a position paper that discusses the relationship between BIM and digital twins, and that's the paper that Ali was talking about. So that was our first outcome for the subcommittee, and now we haven't published it yet, but it's close to being published. But if anyone is interested in like being involved with the subcommittee, you can reach out to me. And then there are other opportunities in NIBS too. I don't know if you want to talk about like specific AI opportunities, but
And this is your platform. What do you want to
yeah.
talk about?
Yeah, so we have the National BIM program that has different work streams. If you're interested about that, again, reach out to me. I can provide you with more information. And then there's also the BIM Council. So depending on where your interest is, I think you can definitely contribute to one of the ongoing efforts.
Excellent. And Zara's email, her LinkedIn profile is listed up in the chat if you joined late. So thank you for being that connecting point for the NIBS AI committee. So the ALN has been lucky to have Kimon be Kimon's company to be an organizational member and run AI brainstorms. We've done Port Storm and Tree Storm, and we're going to be doing Port Storm too. So Nick, as the technical director of the Asset Leadership Network, has had a unique inside view on what has been evolving in just the last year, really. So Nick, would you tell us what you thought about the evolution from when we started with this just, last February to now, to the presentation today?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, there were a lot of amazing use cases displayed today, but some of the ones we focused on in previous presentations were the storytelling elements that AI can assist with, turning data and numbers and spreadsheets into things that leaders can use to inform their decision making. And I think today we saw as well the storytelling aspects of AI improved in a huge way with those talking head avatars. And I put a little note in the chat that, great use for anyone who has something to say that doesn't like being on camera or doesn't have a studio and nice audio and video equipment. I mean, there's just a million reasons someone would want a video with a lifelike, representation saying exactly what needs to be said without having to do 10 takes. I mean, that is an incredible use. And I would just comment on a few things Kimon said or reiterate. There's a risk involved with using AI, but there's also an opportunity or, a risk of missing out. And I think any organization should consider using at least this avatar, video tool post haste, because people like seeing, words and presentations put into video. It's compelling, and it tells the story, and that's what changes hearts and minds to some degree more than any good argument. So,
You mean people like moving pictures?
novel idea, and yes. And yeah, I was just going to reiterate as well that, I think we had in past presentations talked about a lot of future use case potentials, and it was just very cool to see today that, these are no longer future use cases. These are things available now, readily available now. And I think Kimon said generally quite affordable. Yeah, the only other thing I want to comment around the risk piece is I think Kimon mentioned early on in the discussion, because there's generally early on in the discussion a lot of question marks around the security, the safety of using these new tools. And I think just the point that, we're not turning over the reins to AI anytime soon or maybe ever, but using AI to inform decisions made by humans, made by smart business processes is the way to go here.
Well, there are 3 or 4 things that I would like to have the group comment on that Nick brought up. But I would like to say that this is a very special program. It's going to be going beyond our typical 30-minute format. So if you need to leave at the bottom of the hour, totally understand, but we're going to keep talking. Also, we invite anybody who is attending, if they want to make comments, because this is a special program, to say in the chat that you'd like to be made a panelist, and then you can comment. Deke Smith in particular, I would love to see what you have to say on this, but Alex and Art and Christine and Catherine and B, everybody is welcome to participate either in chat questions or to be on the panel. So Nick said that some people might not like to speak in public. And so that's a human behavior issue. And in this past year, it's really come clear to me that it's not the technology. It's not whether asset management, ISO 55000 works. All of this is proven. It's about leadership, establishing a culture of continual improvement that can show results. And I think embracing the AI is a way to let your team, let your group, company, organization understand how you're changing or improving the culture. I don't like to use the word change. So human behavior is a big part of it. And risk, therefore, is an issue. But as Nick said, the risk of not getting involved, I think, is really important. We have relatives, we all do, who say, oh, that's going to ruin the world. It's going to, and I say, fire is a technology. It can cook our food, it can warm our houses, and it can burn down London as it did. It burnt down Chicago, it burned down Moscow 3 times. Does that mean we make fire illegal? No. AI is another technology, and we need to have the regulatory controls and always be aware that somebody's going to be using this tool for no good, and we've got to be smarter than the bad guys. And let's use these tools to make sure that we're smarter than the bad guys. Cyril, you have your hand up?
I do. So just one thing that not so much was mentioned in this presentation, but Kimon mentioned it in previous presentations regarding one of his clients, how they gathered data over the last 3 years. I want to say almost 50,000 data points regarding work orders. And what was crazy was that when AI ingested this data, not only did it create all these amazing reports of trends, but it also gave out reports of feelings of people that added those data points. And what was crazy was that there were some reports that they couldn't show because it potentially exposed a liability of that institution, because suddenly AI is exposing information that suddenly we don't know what that information was, but clearly it was a liability issue. And it's like we can't show people this, even though it's an amazing thing to know, and we're going to address it. That to me was, again, something that was completely unexpected that suddenly emerged from this data.
Radu?
Yeah, I wanted to just mention I was watching this thing the other day mentioning that the trajectory of evolution of AI, which will overpass human IQ imminently, right? The fact that, and as Mike was talking about corporate culture that maybe uses AI tools internally, right? And how that changes and complexifies potentially corporate culture. From the perspective of it overcoming us in terms of like processing power and general sort of comprehension and so on, how that's the kind of challenges that poses risk, right? And sort of how do we incorporate that? How do we deal with that? I don't know, but I think I'm certain. I mean, the comment was from one of the leaders in the field. I don't remember who. But what he said was I mean, even if that's a question, it's a moot question because this is happening, right? Essentially, I think the question is, how do we incorporate this in design, in corporate culture everywhere, in ways that enhance, everything we do, assuming that, yeah, risk is there, we have to just say, sort of, we have it, how do we deal with it, essentially?
I think the iPhone was smarter than me in 2008. So AI being smarter than me is nothing new. But we do have to address the human factor and that. All right, so computing power doubles every 18 months and has been doubling every 18 months. And so when you double and double, it just keeps on getting bigger. So what has happened in AI is when we first started this, there weren't the talking avatars. We had, really good imagery that Kimon got. I tried to do Mid-Journey and I didn't get anything looking nearly as good as what Kimon coaxed out of it. He is an AI whisperer. And so, of course, I'm not surprised that in less than a year, he now has avatars that are talking. It's incredible. Yeah, Moore's Law. Thank you, Alex. Allie, have you been able to hear what we've been talking about at all?
I had unfortunately some internet issues. Are we still talking about the challenges of AI?
Yeah, and culture, the impact of culture on everything we're doing and how to use it for improving culture as opposed to the fear-mongering approach. And it looks like there's continuing to be technical difficulty with Ali. So Zarha?
Yeah, the avatar example was very interesting. I think this is an opportunity that AI can make our industry more inclusive, because usually people that are more extroverted get more like words out, and it gives people like equal opportunity, which is interesting.
Yeah, down at the real basic level, we've got more workforce leaving on, let's say, the mechanical plumbing side than we have coming in. And if you could capture that data of knowledge to some degree, so essentially what I saw in the avatar was training. I saw them actually talking about and reminding of, and so really kind of creating this human-like instance, because it would make a lot of sense for me to go, oh yeah, I was just there, thanks for reminding me, I know exactly where I'm going, makes it faster, and then talks about how to manipulate something because it might be difficult, maybe bringing up the manual, that kind of thing. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of trades recently, just have had the interaction, and I asked the question about the younger workforce, and they just don't have the experience. They haven't grown up in dad's workshop or had a lot of years in apprentice, and so that I could see that being super helpful on the just the operation side.
Yeah, bring a second type of fan belt, because it might be that one. And when you come back, remember to record what you did so we have it on our record. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And nicely. She wasn't yelling at all.
Right.
Allie, you don't have to have your camera on if you want to just talk. Go right ahead, unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, let's do that. So I just wanted to give my reflection on leveraging AI, considering all the challenges and all the difficulties. Basically, I can think of AI and ML uses in our industry in two ways. One is more industry dependent, and we have seen some use cases in the previous presentation. Generative design was an example that Roger mentioned, or preventive maintenance is another example. monitoring productivity or safety on the construction site. We have many different examples of how AI could help us. But the second kind of using AI is maybe more familiar to us, and I would say maybe kind of with lower risk that we can start it with, and that would be just an example of that would be ChatGPT, that I use it for my daily task every day, for cleaning up a table or reviewing some documents or getting some summarized content of a long O&M manual. So, and I think that would be easier for organization to start with this kind of lower risk use of AI and ML and include that as part of their best practices. And I think these kind of activities could open door for more sophisticated uses of AI and ML that needs more investment and maybe more efforts to get them as part of our best practices.
That's a great point, Ali. I know a lot of practitioners that use AI like you do, right? I mean, and if you train it, then you get the added benefit of knowing what you need, right? Giving you feedback on RFPs or essentially drafting maybe contracts for you and so on, right? I mean, there's a lot of potential to saving time that comes with AI on a day-to-day basis and very simple applications like this. And I think you're right, Ali. I think it can be a very a bridge to far more complex things, the kind that reconfigure the field and that can give us, like we talked about digital twin applications, and I think some of the going back to natural systems if you want, but I think some of the applications of digital twin may be uniquely served by AI and nothing else can, right? I think and just like sort of maybe predictive patterns of weather or things like that I think through AI can be done particularly well. And so there's a whole range of, I think, applications for digital twin that could not be served, or at least as well, without the addition, this ingredient of AI facilitating the digital twin.
Yes. So I don't want to put all the pressure on, well, I'm going to hold this thought and say, let's read Deke's question. Deke Smith is considered the father of the CAD standard, the US CAD standard, and the father of the US BIM standard, and has been a leading leader in standards for the building industry for a long time. Has anyone looked into capturing data using the construction to operation building information exchange and reaching out to all the objects identified, applying AI to that and the BIM and helping get to the digital twin? And the answer is, yeah, Kimon has been doing that. And some of the things that he was showing in just, a minute or two, we've had projects with him where we've spent months setting up for a presentation and getting those, working with Kobe and identifying, mapping the objects and being able to show how to work them. What Kimon was talking about and was just recently mentioned is with the California community colleges, taking all of their work orders. And so the work orders are related to work, but he has the digital twins and the building information model related to the work orders. And when he put that all into AI, he not only saw trends, but they made predictions about which equipment was going to need servicing. And it's not exactly what Deke is calling out, but it's related to and similar to that. So what I was going to talk about was, where do we go from here? And what Deke has pointed out is one of the places is collecting all the data. Cyril, will you address the Deke? I'll come back to what I was saying about in the future.
No, I think the data collection is the key, and if there's a mechanism to via AI, the ability of taking a variety of Excel files or data or BIM data, I mean, I think that the possibilities are endless. And as you mentioned, Kimon has shown in these different outputs from AI the possibilities. And I mean, I think we're just scratching the surface here. That's
well, Cyril is going to be dragged into this in a way that he probably doesn't even know about yet, because he is working closely with Kimon on our future Port Storm 2.
Right.
And we'll be exploring that, Deke, as part of it. And it will help us address total cost of ownership, which Deke is very much involved in, and other issues. Zara and Ali. Zara, why don't you go first, and then Ali?
Yeah, sure. I think this is a great point, but also from an owner perspective, it's important to begin with the end in mind. So know what you want to do with the data, so that you collect the data that you need, because it costs to collect data. So I think we should know the purpose and the use cases first and go from there.
Well, Cyril's approach is if you've got a building information model, he'll harvest the data that's there out of it in an effective manner to assist with changeover. But Ali and then Radu.
Yeah, so I would say AI can definitely help with collecting information, whether it's going to be analyzing the information that we collected using IoT sensors, or analyzing some content that we got with CCTV. Of course, it can do it more easily and faster than we could do manually. But I think Zara also made a great point that most of the owners, at least large organizations, currently don't have standards that identify their data requirements. And that's one obstacle for getting into digital twin. We need to know what data we need in the process. And that always depends on the use cases. So we need to know about our use cases as well. But the other aspect of it is when we look at the traditional design and construction process, we're actually collecting a lot of information and we're not using them in a good way. So we are already paying for collecting data. And I think we had some research that shows up to 85% of the data that we collect during design and construction is not actually being used during operation. And we either recreate them or a lot of reworks during the operation phase because we don't know how to use the data. And again, this is an aspect that AI could really help with, because fortunately, AI and ML can help with data governance and data integration and creating some automated processes and workflows for those purposes too. So again, it would be one of the ways that we could leverage AI and actually show value to the stakeholders.
Radu?
Yeah, and I mean, actually, I'm going to first go to a point that Ali just made. The fact that sometimes we withhold data. There's different stakeholders that don't allow the data to be used for different reasons, risk, exposure, things like that, right? So that's another aspect, and it has to do with culture and culture. I mean, I'm seeing different approaches to this in different markets, domestic versus international markets, and so on. But the point I was going to make, I was going to remind us of Kimon's slide on open data, open BIM, right? The fact that there's no data to be used unless it's available, right? And freely available across different platforms. And obviously standards are important because there's no consistency or understanding what data even is without the standards, but open standards are critical to actually making the data useful.
So before we let Cyril respond to Ali's comment, what Radu just said is making this sexy. And Nick said that what we've got to do is make this stuff sexy, and standards aren't really sexy, but what they enable is really sexy. So Cyril, your eyes lit up when Ali was talking.
No, definitely. And Deke had the same reaction that I did. These models that are being generated by the architects, engineers, and contractors are being shelved. And it, you know, the thought of a building that's completed, that the owner has to recreate a data structure to manage these assets and not use the maps generated by their architects and engineers and contractors is just mind-numbing to me. So you know, thus we created this Collectus to do just that, so that the data is defined in the models, and it is intentionally for the owners to harvest. And so I'm right there with you, Deke. Yeah, there's the models are the key by the architects. I mean, and it's possible that we can do this, having, you know, data-rich models. So
I want to get to Ryan through something that Zara said. Zara said we need to start with the end in mind. And Fines Jernigan wrote Big BIM, Little BIM. I helped edit that, the second edition of that. And that was one of the key things that he said in there that really stuck with me. But for this program, I would like to end with the start in mind. And I was so happy to see that NIBS is very interested in using AI as a rallying point to bring a very divergent architect, engineering, construction owner community together. And I'll say things about, so Kimon sent me a text saying the Fed BIM session is difficult to break out of because there's a lot of discussion there. Well, the United States government is part of, you know, is a huge catalyst for change. And we are all part of the United States government. That's what a democracy is. It's we the people. So part of what the ALN will be doing is working with our legislative initiatives to try to help put the regulations and the requirements for proper use of these powerful tools into place. But we've got some initiatives going, and we're reaching out to other associations. So happy that NIBS wants to partner. So Ryan, what did you have your hand up for?
I was just going to encourage everybody to keep talking about it. I know we've been talking about it since the early 2000s, starting with BIM, but I think we really have some meat to use now. And now that we can accelerate the process of showing a result, I think you can get more people interested, you know, with the such a short attention span. I think this actually helps that problem and actually showing some real results. So I'm going to be taking that video around to a hospital that actually has their BIM in a drawer. I've helped with some of the BIM.
Ryan,
what's that?
I want to introduce you to Cyril Ryan. Cyril, Ryan has a potential client for you. Let's talk offline about that. This is the Asset Leadership Network, so there's nothing wrong with doing some networking right here.
Well, the interesting thing is that there's a huge effort to harness AI at hospitals, and particularly this one right here in Orange County. They actually are working on an AI center of excellence. So I think this presentation and this conversation would be very helpful. And I think you'll get a lot of eyeballs, not just from the local group, but this guy has international impact. So I'd like to help direct that for you guys, if you don't mind. Get everybody in touch. Not that I need to be a part of it, but yeah.
Well, excellent. We'll continue that offline. Good to see the mission of the organization being fulfilled in real time. And Ryan and I were talking, you know, chatting, and I actually called him because I was so excited during the presentation. And we all knew that BIM was a big deal at the beginning of the century. We knew it was going to change everything. We joined with Kimon to launch BIMstorm in 2007. We started working on it. The first actual BIMstorm was in 2008, but we spent weeks setting up for that first activity. And we've been kind of disappointed that it didn't live up to what we thought was the potential. Well, now from that presentation, it was just the practice for AI. AI is getting everyone's attention. And because we've worked together, you know, I've known Deke for almost more than 20 years, and Cyril has known Deke for even longer. We've been working on this for a long time. And it doesn't matter that BIM is not the one that's going to score the touchdown for us, that, you know, AI is going to catch, you know, make a diving catch in the end zone, to actually use these tools that we've created to help us overcome the seemingly intractable problems that we've created. So I think this is the tipping point, the horizon line. Is that what you called it, Ryan?
The event horizon.
The event horizon. That is really going to help us use the architectural art of problem solving to address seemingly impossible problems. And we witnessed a moment in time that, as I said to start this, there's before this presentation and there's after this presentation. So that's my thought. Does anybody else have any closing thoughts they want to share? Allie, we haven't heard from you in a while. You have any?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. If I want to say the best thing that AI has done to us is it makes many of our existing technologies more accessible and more usable for us. I don't consider. Yeah, go ahead.
You said it better than me. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I actually don't consider AI and ML as a standalone technology. It's a capability of many of the technologies that we have been using for years. So again, generative design is an example. We can use AI-based tools as a layer of BIM to create models or to enhance simulation or do model optimization, you know. Another example would be the way that we can use AI for coding and virtual programming. Again, many of those capabilities are available in BIM tools nowadays to extract information, to analyze information. So that actually helping us with using BIM, GIS, building management system, building automation system in all different phases of a project lifecycle. And I think I consider AI and ML as enablers to leverage in technology and data in the industry.
Thank you. I've never thought of it like that, and I really like that approach. Radu?
Just wanted to, I mean, I think all of this has, all this has ever been is data. BIM was data, digital twin is data, AI is data. That's I think that's the sort of the thread that connects it all, right? And I think, in a sense, I feel, as much as I always felt that as a BIM manager most of my life, I've always been an integrator. That's all I've done, right? Integrate teams, integrate information, integrate projects, make them work together and be consistent and cohesive. AI has the exact same sort of gift, right? The fact that I think it can integrate data in ways that have not been available before, because we've always sort of used humans to do it. But as we have to acknowledge that's there's a new player that does it much better, right? And I think that's AI. It just natural, if I can say that, progression of things.
Deke says that it was back in 1980 that they first said, yeah, it's about the data. So we've known this, but before I go to Zara for a closing point, Deke, if you want to make a closing comment in the chat, please feel free. Zara, any closing comment?
No, I just wanted to thank you. This was a great platform, and special thanks to Kimon too. Yeah,
that's it. I wish I had a bottle of champagne here. I would pop it for him right now in honor.
Yeah.
You know, and what Roger has done, because there's all the administrative part of it. There's so many pieces. This is a team sport. And Jay, I thought, was really good. Jay brought a perspective that I hadn't had before either. And Jay was the one who was driving home the point of having the AI be an industry unifier. So I really like that. Brian, any further comments?
Well, I think I need to explain my event horizon idea. You know, if anybody knows about it, it's a horizon that you never get to, and we're beyond that. And that's what I meant. I should have said we are beyond the event horizon. I mean, for so many years we've been thinking they're going to get BIM this year. You know, the owners are going to get BIM this year, and then it just that goalpost kind of keeps moving out. And that presentation today, and you called me, it was like, oh my gosh, it was yesterday, and tomorrow it's a brand new day because of this presentation. And it's true, and it's so helpful to have somebody that distills it down, all those things that we've been thinking and can't put into words, and now we're beyond that. So I'm grateful for that.
I've been telling Kimon, this is going to be the year for 15 years or more. And already, this is the year. It's not, it's going to be. This is already the year. We're going to be doing BIM Storm, Port Storm 2. We have to figure out what the date is in spring, but I am so excited about it now based on what we saw today. What about you, Cyril? Cyril's been involved in these in the past and will be involved in Port Storm 2 in the future. Everyone's invited to be involved, by the way.
Yeah, no, I think that this is a brave new world and to see all the possibilities with AI, that just knocked me over. So this is exciting time, and I can already see a number of RFPs that we have that I'm going to be using ChatGPT for, because I mean, as an example, I mentioned it earlier. So quite exciting.
Yeah, Nick has been introducing AI into the ALN. So Nick, we'll let you have the closing words here.
Oh, I just put in the chat to see with open eyes the risks and opportunities, and I think here we are casting a light on the subject and seeing with open eyes that, you know, this is super powerful, maybe not a standalone technology, but I think its ability to make all our technologies more accessible and inclusive, as Zara mentioned, is super important. So very excited to continue this discussion in the future.
So while you are showing the closing slides, I'll say that in addition to thanking our patron members, Jacobs, Definitive Logic, a Man Tech Company, Onuma, ABS Quality Evaluation, CGI, and all of our members, I think we need to have a new slide, Nick. Let's have an official meeting on establishing association members or association relationships and building as many association relationships as we can. And thank you to all the folks on the NIBS AI committee. Sorry, you told me the proper name, but I already forget it. But thank you for joining us and making this a really exciting, dynamic, and it's just encouraging to have all these people be excited with us. So thank you. And thanks to the audience. There's a lot of people that are still online and obviously are engaged. Thank you to Deke, not only for today, but for everything you've done for the industry and joining us together. Bye for now.